Hello everyone, I'm Chen-Yu Tsai, founder of Studio Smoll. I am very happy to have this opportunity today to share with you the process of creating the brand. Studio Smoll is different from other leather goods brands in the past. The characteristic of Studio Smoll is that it has a self-assembly spirit in it. As for how this spirit of self-assembly was conceived and incorporated into our products, we will then explain it in the course. First of all, I will explain the establishing process of Studio Smoll. The whole process from nothing to something has its stages. It is also a process of gradual transformation. We will go through it quickly. Before the course, let's bring the introductory part. Nowadays, there are many new materials or new processing methods in the world. And a designer, especially an industrial designer, is never short of ideas, in the face of so many new things. In fact, he will be very ambitious, will have a lot of new ideas. Especially the industrial design graduates who just entered the industry. He just started to use imagination or creativity. He has activated thinking. But relatively at this stage, he might lack experience. With the increase of experience, he will be more skillful. On the contrary, his creativity may gradually be restricted and limited. This is an inevitable and unavoidable situation. As an industrial designer in a large company, he often needs to cooperate with others, including with the front-end market or the back-end organization coordination, and there are many things that must be compromised. Let's consider this experience as an upward curve, and his ability to think creatively as a downward curve, and let's make a crossover point between the two lines. In fact, I think there are many possibilities at this crossover point. It represents a designer or design team that has accumulated some working experience and they still maintain some certain degree of creativity. My idea is to try to find a new key point on the y-axis of the crossover point. This key point represents a more creative product, and it can inherit the experience accumulated by the designer in the past. If the point is high enough, I think it represents not only the birth of a new product, but also the birth of a new brand. Because it can represent the birth of a new idea. And the designer has enough ability to penetrate the market. Based on this, we have to think about starting a business. If we miss this time and the window is closed, we may never have the opportunity to do this again. There is one more feature of the point just mentioned, which is that it is generally not too far away from our lives. It is still something we are familiar with. It will not be something that is out of the ordinary and incomprehensible. In the same context, Studio Smoll also tried to fully create a new brand with a new concept. But the concept doesn't look too different from the traditional bags in the past at the first glance. Yet, the brand has some new concepts and some new ideas. Let's move on to the beginning and the development of the brand. In fact, Studio Smoll's brand was first started and conceived in 2016. Rina and I each left our jobs related to industrial design. We founded Studio Smoll. Apart from the long working hours, industrial design in Taiwan is actually a very comfortable and happy industry. Because Taiwan has a lot of integrated resources from top to bottom. At that point, this was an important decision for us because we set out of our original comfort zone. Then, from which point to make the development is the very beginning of the brand. We created a name for the brand called Smoll, which comes from the English word small. We want to be different from what we did in the past. We hope that what we are doing now will start from a small point. And we do not expect to become a huge enterprise, but to keep it small and lean via design. Although we do something small but has a key influence. From this starting point of small, we have derived its Chinese name. No, Yan, Qi. C stands for thought. No stands for strategy. Yan stands for research. And Qi means vessel. We hope that we can develop our brand based on these four meanings. The next thing we have to do is to start from thinking. For example, to observe whether there are still things that need to be improved, even if we are used to it. But there are always some existing problems to improve through design. The second part is the strategy, to think and to plan where we should start. After the first two things are settled, then we will enter the stage of research and development, which we are good at. R&D means that there are many mass production problems and commercialization problems that need to be solved. Then our ultimate goal is to put this design power through and implement it into the product we develop and successfully put them on the market. The final tool is the vessel. This vessel is the result of design input and fundamental improvements. The beginning of the brand starts from the very origin of Smoll. In the process of searching, we deliberately took a break for half a year. Although we have a lot of experience in the industrial design field, we also have a lot of past work habits. The picture on the right of the presentation is the first studio of our brand. We just found a space and did a very simple decoration. From this small space, we thought about the entry point for initiating. At the beginning, many people thought we already knew something about leather. And we were even very familiar with leather processing before we started Smoll. In fact, it is on the contrary. In the first 6 months of establishing our brand, we deliberately put ourselves into idleness and just observe, looking for elements from the surroundings of life, and discuss them with each other. The leather was actually an unintentional result. It wasn't our main focus in the beginning. It was only when we tried to add a natural material to the original concept that we started to come across leather. It was only after the contact that we realized that there is really a part of leather that can be explored. For example, more than 80% of leather is now chrome tanning. Preservation is done through heavy metal tanning. Although the process is fast, it leaves a lot of chemical substances on the leather. This is also one of the reasons why people associate the leather industry with environmental pollution. We also found this problem when we first put the Chip Carter silver jewelry in the bag. It will oxidize quickly. After inquiry, we realized that, although the leather itself is natural, chemical elements are involved in the processing. And these chemical elements will lead to the contamination and interference of the goods. We further researched and found that there is a new material, which is also leather, but through vegetable tanning. Although it is an ancient method, it can solve the problem of chemical residue. And this kind of leather material is very stiff. The stiffness of the material is good to shape the product, that I will explain more later. Now, continue to explain the process of turning leather into a major product. After the leather is adopted, we start to make a trial sample. In the process, we need to buy a lot of tools. We come to realize that leather products can only be bought as finished products or from the beginning, by participating in leather craftsmanship. But it was very difficult for the consumer, and it required a lot of tools to complete the work. We tried to find a solution to all the problems we encountered during the process. Let's move to the part of emergence and focus of concepts. After the leather was selected as an entry point, we turned the concept into a concrete solution that could be implemented. You can see the right side of the presentation. It's the same as the leather bags we use in general. Similar in appearance to the shape we are familiar with. Take Musk's Tesla for example, the same concept of car. Each car manufacturer is trying to install newer computers on the car. Well, Musk's idea is to add wheels to the computer. Although the result is the same, the starting point is different. We were thinking about the same thing, also using leather to make the structure of the bag. But we wanted to use a piece of leather in a folded way to complete the products. In the process, we have to think about the past. For example, there are 140 tons of leather and rubber waste in Taiwan every year. This means that if a small part of a consumer's bag is damaged, the whole bag will be thrown away and become a big waste. But what makes this a problem happen? Because traditional leather is difficult to disassemble after being sewn and bonded. So, we hope the design of disassemble, reassemble, and even replace parts is carefully planned. Through the new design type to extend the life of the bag. This is what we mean by the concept of environmental protection. So that although the form of the bag is the same, it is fundamentally improved from the problems of the traditional bag. Just now, we mainly talked about the origin of Studio Smoll and the process of the development, and also talked about specific ideas about the product solution. But this does not mean that the commercialization process is plain sailing. Although Rin and I have been in industrial design for many years and have a lot of experience in solving problems of commercialization, on the other hand, we have not had long exposure to leather-related products. We lack the training of leather craftsmanship compared to the training of traditional workers. But on the contrary, we are not constrained in this area. We are able to try more and break through and bring in our past experience into proposed solutions, and to overcome the process of commercialization. Next, we will explain the challenges of commercialization. As I mentioned earlier, we have abandoned the traditional combination of sewing and adhesives. But we still respect the value and existence of traditional craftsmanship. However, because of the brand's original concept, we had to abandon the disposable and irreversible processes of sewing and adhesives. After purchase, consumers can not only assemble, but also refurbish their bags, and even disassemble them quickly when they need to be recycled, so that they can return to nature without pollution. Next comes the biggest challenge: how to finish the products without using stitches and adhesives. Traditional leather bags are made by making a pattern, producing different sides of leather, and then combining them with sewing and adhesives. Without using these methods, we try to build a bag structure by folding. The folding method means that the bag is originally a single structure, which eliminates the need for sewing and adhesives, and also eliminates the need to piece together the different sides of the leather. During the folding process, the designer develops the structure of a bag, and the inner layer is separated to allow for maximum storage. The structure is designed in an industrial way to find a replacement for stitching and adhesives. In the presentation picture, you can see the leather under the bag is not yet folded, and the top is the finished folded leather. Then you can see some cut paths on the bottom of the bag. This non-continuous path cut is designed as an alternative to using stitching and adhesives. After folding, it will produce equidistant and bending features, somewhat like the result of traditional needle and thread sewing, which are not through needle and thread. This has become a new type of bag that does not use needle and thread. And we have applied for patents in many countries for this product. Here we would like to share with the designers that it takes a lot of resources and money to develop and maintain a patent. It is recommended to invest the most critical part into the patent. It will be more efficient. For example, we set up a patent on the special features of the product cutout and the new solution for the bag, and then distribute it to the world. After the initial concept, we went through a long process of adjustment. Once we had a prototype, the spacing of the slugging, the size of the incision and the width of the leather between the incisions, all had a bearing on whether the bag would carry enough weight and be stable enough after folding. After a period of testing different solutions, we finished our final setting and applied for patents in various countries. Even after the product is made, we still spend a lot of time to improve the delicacy of finishing. The cutouts we design must be made with great care in order to reduce the damage to the leather and improve the user's experience. This part is related to the subsequent selection on the machine and the fineness after the adjustment and correction. It takes a long time to study and experiment before we can meet the commercialization standards and start production. Another challenge of our commercialization is the concept of self-assembly. Since our leather can be assembled without stitches or sewing, it means that the consumer can assemble it himself after purchase. This may be an interesting idea, but will it backfire when it comes to the consumer? Consumers may worry that they do not have the ability to assemble it themselves, or that they will make a mistake during assembly. Designers must address these issues to minimize consumer concerns. And our ultimate goal is to hope that consumers buy self-assembly kits. When they go home to open leather, they can feel very comfortable. Do not need to buy other parts, and do not need to take the leather making course. You can use your hands to assemble the leather parts into a bag. This part became a new challenge in our design. We had to design an assembly type that could be controlled under a certain level of difficulty. It should not be so difficult that the consumer gets confused. But it should not be so easy that the consumer loses the pleasure he or she wants to have. So our products are set to vary in difficulty, but are controlled within a certain range. Then consumers do not have too much pressure when assembling, but also do not feel bored. The whole product comes with the items we provide. Leather is not through the stitching and adhesive, but after folding still needs to be fixed. This part we will provide fixed hardware. Although there is a video to guide consumers to execute, considering that consumers may make mistakes in the assembly process. We also put some effort on the hardware. The different colors marked on the hardware symbolize the different lengths of screws. And through the video clearly tell consumers to use the corresponding color hardware in the corresponding position when assembling. This process of assembly is reversible. If there is an error, it is possible to start over. All of the above is our attempt to reduce consumer anxiety about self-assembled products by means of design. But more than that, consumers are curious about new products and are eager to have a try. These things are relative, and when the product reaches consumers, they are more daring than we can imagine. Next, the multiple challenges of commercialization. After the issues of the production process are solved, we must think about the commercialization part. The process of commercialization is related to the distribution of the same concept into different products. The selection of items and the timing of the launch is the second half of our course. For designers, this same concept will have different possibilities when applied to different products. Before the product is launched, there are a lot of preparations, such as shooting preparation and post-production design, all of which require a certain amount of time to execute. This part will affect the number of products that can be on the market in a year. The number is limited so that we have to think about how to arrange the process of product launch. Our approach is that besides the first 6 products on the shelves, we will launch 2 to 3 products per year. There are differences between each product, such as the size, the difficulty of assembly, the style, etc. For example, is it larger or smaller? More or less complicated assembly or more feminine or masculine? We believe that this approach to the market will form the image of our brand for the consumer. By focusing on the product concept, rather than on the production of a particular bag or model. In the future, when it comes to brand positioning and layout, it will have enough space to develop more products. Sometimes it works the other way around. When we find a good folding structure, we can expand the same structure to different sizes of bags. It may create different applications and usage habits of consumers. This kind of structure will be found in the research and development process. No matter how big or small the bag is, it is very suitable. When the same structure is applied to different products, we will launch them as a new series of products, so that it can hit the market on a larger scale and be widely spread in the market. This product line also highlights the freedom of the folding concept in our brand. Later on, we continue to extend the product concept so that we found a new market. Because our bags are in the structure of assembly, it means that the bag is a modular structure and can be replaced. Also, when replacing different parts, the choice of leather color can be more varied. You can see the Nerdy Mini series in the lower right corner of the presentation. You can use a color for the strap, a color for the body, and a color for the top flap to create a different appearance. Because of this freedom of assembly, it even allows consumers to freely choose the parts that they like the most. Another interesting point is that our bags can be replaced by some parts through the assembly. For example, we can use a cross-body strap and a handbag, so that a bag can have both shoulder and handbag functions. Some models can even have up to 3 or 4 functions. In this case, we would like to give the consumer complete freedom to use the bag. Therefore, we release the maximum freedom of product functions and colors to the market in the later stage. Let the consumers feel that Studio Smoll is different from the traditional leather bags from the foundation, but it is in a familiar style. In the end, we created a new value in the use of our products. Is how we have faced the challenges of commercialization, and how we gradually make the product more and more concrete and overcome problems. From the origin of the brand, we have a specific entry point. From the entry point, we use the past experience of the industrial designer to make the product commercialized and become a mature product. Next, we will discuss how new ideas are communicated to the market. In the past, when we worked in design firms, we were exposed to different industries, but we only played the role of designers. If we worked in a certain industry, we would be more involved in product design discussions within that industry. But in fact, it's very difficult for a designer to see what the product will look like when it enters the market, or if it will receive what kind of feedback in the market. From a designer's point of view, it is difficult to think about this aspect. When we started the business, we wanted to create a new concept. But how to have a conversation when the concept was launched into the market? Through the interaction, we could know what the customers think about the brand and what the future of our brand is. This is a problem that we have never faced before. But on the contrary, we find it very interesting and an experience that we have never had before in our work. How do we bring Studio Smoll to the market? This is the part we've been trying to figure out for a long time. In the process of reaching out to the market, we listened to a lot of ideas and opinions about the brand, and tried methods that we hadn't used before. For example, at the beginning, we wanted to convey the whole concept to the consumers and distributors. But later we found that both consumers and distributors are looking at a one-sided view. He may only care about the novelty of the product or the beauty of the product. Of course, there are still some people who respect the brand's edgy ideas and appreciate efforts on environmental issues. There are things from different aspects. When you have to go through the whole thing at once, it will become very long and unsuitable for a brand. You have to look at different features of the branding material in stages, and give different material to different audiences. The most effective way is a dynamic process with a static context. Let the material hold the consumer's attention. Let's take a look at the presentation. The picture is our studio. We filmed the assembly process of the bag in a form of stop motion and made it into a little video. Although it is only 3 seconds or 5 seconds, it can quickly let consumers understand the concept of our product, which is to fold a bag from a piece of leather. When the concept can be clearly and quickly conveyed to the consumer, we will also take some pictures of the bag in use. They will know how the bag will look like on him, or how it will look when he wears it. We prepare both footage, and they provide content in a concise way. We think it's good to use short materials to attract exhibitors, or to attract consumers directly. Then we must find a location to display these materials. And the official website becomes the main base to show these materials. The official website is like a house, it provides a structure. We can put the material just mentioned to decorate it. The structure of the house also determines the suitability of the materials. In the first 3 months of our brand, we had an official website with a structure. But after putting the material on it, we immediately found that the overall structure of the website was not suitable for the brand and what we wanted to present. So within a short period of time, we set up a new website, built a new house, and put the materials back in. so that we could have a better platform to put materials and products. These materials are collected into a huge database. Since it has been fragmented and turned into a module, you can use the material you need for different situations, such as for exhibition, for display on the channel, or for competition, and use the material that best suits the purpose. Having a website means to have not only a place for a complete collection of material, but also a database for external branding or product marketing. We can freely respond to various needs and do not need to re-prepare what we need for a competition or exhibition. Preparing a database is a habit, and how to sort and organize it is also a necessary ability for a designer. Here is the second part of our new idea, and how to interact with the market. We start to have a new idea, and this idea still needs to face the period before it is fully accepted by the market. Although our bags are to some extent the same as other bags, backpacks are still backpacks, wallets are still wallets, and consumers are familiar with the form of use of the items. However, because we put a new concept in the first part of the assembly process, we must let the market have time to adapt it. And we don't want this time to be too long. So we choose to participate in exhibitions and competitions when the brand is first introduced to the market. Through these ways and means, it is easier for us to achieve a relatively high ranking when we make a presentation to the market. Then when we present the product, it is less focused on functionality or styling. We pay more attention to let customers and the market know the difference between our product and other leather goods. We have participated in many international design competitions, as well as some very important local design competitions in Taiwan. And we have been lucky enough to win some awards. You must understand that when you participate in a design competition, sometimes you must think about the purpose behind the competition. Some design competitions are transcendent, especially the annual International Iconic Design Competition. It cares about whether the product has broken through something or created a new concept, and given a new contribution and value to society. Therefore, in the choice of materials, we must choose something that are suitable for presenting the concept. Some competitions are accompanied by exhibitions, and some are traditional trade shows that are also design competitions. Different exhibitions have different purposes, which means we have to prepare different materials to present a content that meets the needs of the competition in order to win awards. To let the brand have a higher position in the market in the future, to elaborate their ideas. Of course, the choice of exhibition is also very important. We mostly participated in design exhibitions in the early days. When I presented a new concept at a design show, it was more likely to attract the attention and acceptance of the exhibitors. They will want to be able to explore new things in the exhibition and to discover the ideas they have never seen in order to stimulate the market. Later on, we gradually changed the direction of participating exhibitions. In addition to maintaining the original design show, we extended our reach to the formal bag show. For example, Milano MIPL is one of the most important international bag shows. In such a bag show, we may reach a completely different consumer who may not be so quick to accept the product, but will like the appearance of the product and will not reject the new model brought by the product. These bag shows have been held for decades or even centuries, and they welcome the presentation of new things. For example, when we participated in Milano MIPL, we were offered a very good booth. When we applied for the show, our presentation of the exhibition had attracted their attention and aroused their curiosity. I think it was a great experience. With the experience of the competition and the success of the exhibition, we have really gained a certain degree of voice in the market. I think it is a great experience for our brand to let people see not only the appearance and function of the brand, but also the original goal and spirit of the brand. I think this is particularly important to the brand. The other way is to try other ways. For example, crowdfunding is the way to raise funds. Crowdfunding is a novel experience, and we have tried this in Taiwan and Japan to reach consumers who are not reached by traditional physical channels. I found there was something interesting in the process. The concept of fundraising is more likely to start a dialogue with consumers before the product is developed, and the messages and information from the consumers will be good references for designers. This is the direct feedback that you don't have access to get when you work in a design firm or large corporation. This information feedback makes a product more marketable and is a good evolutionary process. We'll feel that fundraising not only brings out the market-oriented expansion, but also brings the feedback to help designers enhance the value of the product. After we bring the product to the market with the concept mentioned above, we start to reach the market. The market is a place that cares about the coordinates. In order to explain this part, we have to go back to branding. If we don't think about branding, We should just continue to work as industrial product designers in big companies. It's a habit to look back after a while to see where our brand stands in the market. If you are a design student or design graduate, whether you are in a design firm, industry, or even starting a business, it is necessary to regularly help your client or company think about how your brand is positioned in the marketplace and what it is. This coordinates can be adjusted as things happen, but also must be put to the consumer with a consistent spirit. This is the point we need to examine. Even in the time of our busy product development work, we go back to this question every 2 to 3 months. In which coordinate of the market where the brand's internal target is. And it includes its internal and external coordinates. The so-called market coordinates are the external coordinates, while the internal coordinates are a process to think about how the brand should be adjusted. Then our topic is very simple. As I mentioned above, Studio Smoll does not want to become a huge enterprise, but rather specializes in the operation of a leather bags brand with design. But in what way does the brand exist on the market? We sometimes look for indicative brands to refer to. In the beginning, people often describe our concept or brand in this way. For example, some people think we look like the Japanese brand Muji, because we have a very simple appearance, and we don't emphasize the brand logo on the products so much. If we can present the product appearance in a simple way, we don't put too much on the product. Our products focus much more on functionality. The natural curves of the leather after folding and the simple structure, so that the look is a bit like the Japanese Muji style. Some people think we look like IKEA, a Swedish furniture brand. This brand is similar to us in many ways, with the same spirit, and the proportions and appearance of the products have been well planned by the designers. Similarly, it allows consumers to do the final assembly, and allows them to obtain the parts and tools needed in the assembly process. Consumers can complete the assembly of the furniture through the explanation. Studio Smoll also has a similar approach, allowing consumers to do the bag assembly process themselves. Because of this, some people think that we are very connected to IKEA in this area. We are also thinking about the inner part of our business, where our spiritual side is. What we just mentioned is the contrast in terms of appearance, or the final shape of the product. When it comes to the spiritual side, we mentioned Tesla. Although the nature of the product is very different from the leather, on the spiritual side, it is somewhat similar to what we are doing. Tesla is not thinking about putting a computer on a car, but about putting wheels directly on a computer. In the same way, we make bags in the form like this situation. For the consumer, he does not have a similar experience in using the bag. But the same, he can feel the internalized spirit of ideas come from a different starting point. We also hope to keep this spirit within our brand. Maybe there are many other brands in the market that we can refer to, or can inspire more creative ideas to our brand. You can also help us to define Studio Smoll and let us know your ideas. The above is our feedback on Studio Smoll from its inception to its entry into the market, and our constant reflection on the positioning of the brand in the market and its future development. Here are all the steps of the management of the brand. This is the end of my course. I hope you will continue to pay attention to Studio Smoll. Thank you.